So you're saying that Keir Starmer should kiss Donald Trump's ass?
I think he should lick his ass. I mean, basically, Farage is our de facto ambassador, if I'm going to be honest. I think generally he's failed. This is just another notch on his belt, really. You know, it's to our everlasting shame that something like this was allowed to happen.
Hello, I'm JJ Anisiobi and welcome to the Daily Expresso. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and Express columnist, Esther Krakue. Esther, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
This is your first time on the Expresso?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Let's make it a good one.
Okay.
Also, whilst I've got you, if we've earned it, if you think we've earned it, please hit that thumbs up button and also subscribe. Okay, we've got a lot to get through today, so let's start with Mandelson, as you know, was sacked after his revelations of his seedy support for best pal Epstein. Grubby emails and a nauseating birthday card made sure that his role as ambassador to America was over, but the nuclear fallout will be long and drawn out. Now that the Prince of Darkness is gone, attention has turned to who knew what and when, and this could be disastrous for Starmer if any detail emerges that suggests he should have sacked Mandy sooner than he did. Esther, I'm so glad you're in today because you never hold back.
Okay.
You say it how it is. We're probably going to get sued and censored because of you today,
Don't
but
worry.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're on YouTube, we're fine.
If Starmer has at all lied or twisted the truth about Mandelson and what he knew and when, he is toast for certain, right?
I think it's worse than that because I don't think most people are really bothered by the minutiae of the detail. It's more about his judgment. Keir Starmer ran last year saying he was the sensible, middle of the road guy. The adults are back in the room, and at every turn, his judgment has basically been questioned because of things like this. Besides the Epstein scandal, why bring someone like Mandelson back when you know, one, the Trump administration doesn't have any time for the Blairite that Mandelson is, and two, he had to resign twice. Mm-hmm. The last two times he was in government in disgrace, one of which was basically for trying to use his influence to get someone to get a British passport, which is, I think, grotesque. That alone should have raised red flags. And then you have this association with Epstein, which, from what we hear, Keir Starmer is angry at his staff for saying that they didn't protect him. Well, welcome to politics. You have to be one step ahead of the game. I mean, in as much as you could criticize Blair's politics, the man had instinct and wit for this. Keir Starmer doesn't. He is just a typical establishment figure that believes in processes and all the things that make government organizations creak along. But he doesn't actually have the instinct to smell danger coming. The second he heard Mandelson and Epstein, that was the end. That should have been it. You shouldn't have to have someone do a risk analysis and say, oh, maybe we can weather this storm. Because, again, there's no way to come back from it. How are people going to trust Keir Starmer's judgment from now on?
Kemi Badenoch, there's no bad.
It's Badenoch. Oh, yeah, I was always wondering how to say that.
She has accused Starmer of lying to the entire country about what he knew.
Well, of course she has. That's a job.
Well, you say that, but I don't think it's often that politicians come out and flatly say, another politician is lying. So for her to say that, does she know something that we don't know about this whole situation?
I hope so, because if not, that's very libelous. I think it's worse than lie. I just think it's sheer incompetence. I think to lie, you obviously have to have known what was actually happening, and politicians lie all the time. It's not surprising, but he must have had the instinct that he could weather the storm. I think he just doesn't have a clue, and that's really terrifying.
Well, Business Secretary Peter Kyle has come
who's
out.
on form recently, actually.
He's come out swinging. He said that Mandelson had singular talents. This perhaps answering your question as to why he was given the job. He had singular talents, and he was worth the risk. Yeah. Even though he had questionable ties to China, even though he was friends with a known pedophile, he still had...
trying to sell off a British passport.
Even though he was trying to sell off a British passport, apparently he was still worth the risk. You think he was worth the risk,
Absolutely
Mandy?
not. No, definitely not. And I think... if you develop a reputation in politics for being disloyal, you're basically toast. But if you develop a reputation for being incompetent, you're also toast. And I think the problem that Keir Starmer has is he's happy to fire people that are politically toxic to him. But politics, as anyone who works in it, is a pool. You have a pool of talent. There's only so much talent you can draw on. People saying, oh, why did he make Lammy deputy PM? Well, because there's not that much talent going around. His entire cabinet is devoid of any real heavy hitters. And if you develop a reputation where you have someone like Peter Mandelson with singular talents that can't even rely on you to back him up, you're not going to get anywhere. He shouldn't have taken the risk with Mandelson to begin with, because the Epstein ties are very, very toxic. But now that he has, he looks also disloyal. So it's like he doesn't know what he's doing, and then when he gets caught out, he's going to drop you like a hot potato. How are you going to run a country that way? How are you going to have anyone around you that knows what they're doing?
Well, according to sources, Starmer and crew are worried about Andy Burnham.
Yeah,
he could be the next
king
leader.
The king in the north.
King of the North. Listen, he has a good following. You think Andy Burnham would be the next Labour leader?
I think so. I think he will be able to play on the desperation of the Labour Party to try and get its act together. And I think Jeremy Corbyn's party, when it launches, if it launches, but I think it will.
Jezbollah,
the Jezbollah party, which for some reason he hasn't accepted. I find it strange. Anyway, they know that the threat is coming. I mean, the last election basically was a gift to Labour because the right was split. But you're going to see the left split very soon. And you're going to see our politics fragment because no one can tell their arse from their elbows, basically. And Andy Burnham is going to try and actually lean more towards the left to try and stave off the threat of Jezbollah's party. But you can only do that so much when public finances there's a bit of headroom for you to be able to do that. There is no headroom. I mean, I think we're staring down the barrel of a significant fiscal crisis within the next 18 months. I think Starmer will be gone by spring, really, or after the May elections, the local elections. I don't think he can weather that storm.
The only reason I don't think Andy Burnham is going to make a play for leader is because he has to give up his mayorship. He can't be mayor.
Yes,
he also has to then get elected as an MP, winning a by-election against a Reform Party who are on the
exactly.
rise.
There is no such thing as a safe Labour seat.
Yeah.
So we don't even know if he was to make that play where they're going to find a safe Labour seat to put him in. And secondly, you have people like Wes Streeting that I've said for a long time. I think Wes Streeting is very clever in how to maneuver the headache that is Keir Starmer and his government. And I think if he doesn't sign up to support Andy Burnham, you also have a threat in Wes Streeting, who I think is quite competent. The whole thing is a mess. I think anyone who has their eye on the ball is seeing that there's going to be a budget coming in the next 2 months that's going to be a bunch of tax rises that are going to be deeply unpopular. The markets are still not going to be happy. Yields are probably going to be at an all-time high still. Labour's going to get thrashed in May. Wales is gone, and Scotland hasn't. The SNP's demise hasn't really helped Labour either. So it's not looking good anywhere you look at it. If Keir Starmer was sensible, he would probably leave before he's pushed. But he's the only thing we know that Keir Starmer believes is that he should be in charge. He doesn't have any political convictions other than he should be in charge. That's it. Which is quite unfortunate, really.
Well, things are going to get more difficult for Starmer because the president is on his way. That's right. Tomorrow, Donald Trump returns to Britain for his second state visit. And after a shocking couple of weeks for Labour, this might be a welcome distraction for Starmer. The key things on the itinerary are a state banquet being put on by King Charles, and then there's a big Chequers summit between Starmer and Trump on Thursday. The UK and US are set to sign an agreement aimed at accelerating the development of nuclear power, which Starmer will be keen to speak about. But Trump wants to make free speech top of the agenda, and I'm sure Number 10 fears it might derail the entire visit. After the Unite the Kingdom march over the weekend, rows over the imprisonment of former childcare worker Lucy Connolly and the arrest of comedy writer Graham Linehan by 5 armed coppers, the state of free speech in the UK is now a major US concern. And it is, Esther. Is this visit from Trump, is this good timing for Starmer or is this terrible timing for Starmer?
In some ways, I think it's actually good timing because they both have an Epstein problem. So it's going to become a game of I won't mention it if you don't, because and as much as people think, oh, it's unsightly that Peter Mandelson has been fired, anyone who knows the Trump administration knows that the insiders didn't have any time for Peter Mandelson. He represents a type of politics that they just cannot stand at all. This whole Blairite globalist trying to do clever machinations and really failing. So most people didn't even know Mandelson was our ambassador to the US to begin with. And it's never really looked, I mean, basically Farage is our de facto ambassador, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's never really looked good. I think the American concern about Britain, especially free speech in Britain, is like, when there's a car crash and you don't understand why there's traffic because like the crash is being like sorted out, but people are slowing down to watch the car crash in slow motion. That's basically American concern for Britain and our politics. It's never really mattered until like something bad is happening and they're like, oh, you know, this is a cautionary tale. If you follow the Democrats, this is what you're going to look like. You're going to have no free speech and getting arrested for tweets, which of course wouldn't happen because of their First Amendment. So I think that's really it. I don't think, and in order of importance, the UK is very far up Trump's list. I think it's just going to be more kissing ass by Starmer, which he should do, because the last thing you want to do is alienate America. And unfortunately, our loss is America's gain. Like all these companies, these pharmaceutical companies and AI companies that are delisting on the London Stock Exchange to go and list in New York, it's America's gain, and they know that. You know, we are the biggest source of foreign direct investment for the US. So any sort of economic collapse here, America inevitably benefits from. So why would Trump really feel in his interest to try and prop up the British economy? Of course not.
So you're saying that Keir Starmer should kiss Donald Trump's ass?
I think he should lick his ass.
Okay. Can you say that line for me officially?
I'm sorry, but short of total political collapse, what else can he do? He has to kiss the ring.
Ring on his finger. This gives a whole different meaning to the special relationship. Do we still have a special relationship with the US?
We're about to now.
It's like free speech. If I'm honest, I don't fully understand why the Americans care so much about our free speech in this country. There's lots of places around the world, like the UAE, where free speech is kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah.
You can't say whatever you like, and they're still very safe societies. Why do Americans, or why does the American establishment care so much about British free speech? It's actually not affecting them.
So it's twofold. I mean, obviously the tradition, the English common law tradition of free speech and kind of having a battleground of ideas is inherently English. So the Americans got it from us. So it's kind of like they're looking at their embarrassing uncle at the dinner table and thinking, what are you doing? So there's that. But there's also kind of this conservative alliance where you're seeing conservatives in the US trying to form some sort of friendly relationship with conservatives in Europe, like in Hungary. American conservatives are obsessed with Hungary and Orban, even though he's doing things that are not necessarily very democratic. And I think the reality is no one is surprised if freedom of speech is curtailed in places like the UAE. The Middle East, for example, doesn't have those kind of free speech traditions, but Britain does. It basically originated from us. The common law traditions in Canada and Australia and New Zealand and to a lesser extent America all stem from the UK. So it kind of feels like if something like that can happen here, it certainly can happen in the US and in Canada and all of these other countries that have British jurisprudence as their traditional sort of the tradition of their legal system.
Saturday was the Unite the Kingdom march. Widely seen as a success.
Yeah.
I had friends who went on it, told me there was over 1 million people there. I asked Groff.
How do they know? Like,
I guess you have the feeling of, you know.
And it was intense.
Look, I go to football matches at football stadiums.
Yeah.
I can walk to the stadium amongst a crowd of people and guesstimate, okay, there's about 50,000 people here. So if there's football geezers who are going down on these marches.
Definitely wasn't the Man United match.
No,
don't even.
We're not going to speak about Man United.
Don't even.
Less said better.
Oh.
But I had friends who went down there. They're saying to me, there's about 1 million people there. It was peaceful. It was democratic. It was patriotic. That was a success. Should the establishment, Keir Starmer, should he be looking at the patriots of the country and taking them into consideration more, rather than saying these are far right marches?
Yeah.
Should he be looking at it and saying there's people there who are not far right? There's people of all different colours and creeds at this march on the weekend. And yes, there's some scuffles. I can go to the football match on a Saturday. Go and watch Spurs.
Scuffle, yeah.
There'll be scuffles.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're all crazy football hooligans.
He doesn't need to. And the reason why he doesn't need to are two things that I think concern me as well, which is Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk. And I think, first of all, I don't care for Elon Musk. He's a very talented man, obviously, but for me, he's a billionaire with a big mouth. And, you know, 1 week he's talking about German politics like he's some sort of expert. The next week he's fixated on British politics, which, you know, I can understand. He's had his family from here, but really, outside of the grooming gang scandal, which I appreciated him highlighting the disgrace of it once again, I don't really think anyone goes to bed thinking, I wonder what Elon Musk thinks about British politics, especially if you live in Britain, you pay taxes here, you understand the situation going on. Tommy Robinson is a different case because he is politically nuclear. And I watched a podcast that he was on where he said, he didn't go to the Bell Hotel in Epping because he didn't want attention to be drawn from what's actually happening there to him. So he is inadvertently aware of his own celebrity and the kind of press that follows him. And I think for something as important as being proud in your being patriotic, being proud of your country, highlighting issues that are bothering people like mass immigration, which is not a racist talking point. It's an issue because it's about resources and about this country not falling apart. I think once you inject him into the center of it, it's very easy for people to say, oh, but it's Tommy Robinson. He has this huge criminal, rap sheet of criminal convictions, the EDL stuff. I mean, even if he's done things in the past that are unpalatable and he's a reform man now, it's still the kinds of things that in the British psyche, and especially in the English psyche, on some level, you always feel uncomfortable with. There are people making the same point that Tommy Robinson is making about, mass immigration, about cultural cohesion and stuff like that don't come with his baggage. And I wish it was people like that were leading the charge. Once you put him at the center of it, unfortunately, it becomes easy for Keir Starmer to say, oh, we're not going to let our flag be hijacked by these far-right protesters, because there are people that follow him that are far-right, unfortunately. I don't know if it's the majority. I don't think so. But that is the truth. So I would say, I think if he is as much of a patriot as he says he is, and I have no reason to doubt him, I'm not going to say he is or he isn't, I think he should take a step back and work behind the scenes, because once he attaches his name to something, he makes something that is very important to many people in this country, many left-leaning, center, right people, some things that they feel very strongly about. He makes it toxic. And I don't think that's necessary. And, people will say he should be given a second chance, fine. But this man has had 15 years in the British psyche and British public life where, yes, he said important things and he said things that turned out to be true, but he also has a very long rap sheet and a very bad history behind him with the EDL and the criminal convictions that I just don't think is worth it. Mm-hmm. I mean, someone like this, you can understand why Nigel Farage is running away from him like a bat out of hell, because you don't want Tommy Robinson anywhere near reform, even if he says things that a lot of reform voters may agree with.
So let me know, who do you think is the better leader? Is it Donald Trump or is it Keir Starmer? Let us know in the comments below. Sadiq Khan is facing pressure to resign over his failure to accept there is a grooming gang problem in London. In an exclusive Express investigation, a police whistleblower revealed that the horrific crime has been rife in London for 20 years. Over the course of 2025, the London mayor has dodged questions on the topic on 9 separate occasions, but now a former Met Police detective has claimed there was a cover-up. Decorated former detective John Wedger says he uncovered a trove of evidence suggesting that there is organised sexual exploitation of children in the capital on a level that goes way beyond notorious scandals in towns like Rotherham or Rochdale. Here's a clip from the interview.
I went, after leaving the Metropolitan Police's Vice Unit, where I dealt with child prostitution, where I'd actually uncovered kids there on an industrial scale from the age of 9 to 14 that were being trafficked for prostitution. They were being sold in crack houses in the mornings. There'll be swabs for 9, 10 cracks, rocks of crack a piece. From there, they'll be taken to hotels that did a rental by an hour. And usually the people that would go in there to have sex with the children were builders that were away from home, that were working in central London. After that, the kids would then be taken to upmarket Arab restaurants in Mayfair, around the Curzon Street area, where they would be traded for as much as £2,000 each. And that was happening on a daily basis.
Esther, this is horrific, if true.
It is, but it also makes sense. I mean, just on a balance of probability, I found it very strange that you would have hundreds of towns across the UK, like Oxford, Rotherham, Rochdale, have this endemic problem of the grooming gangs issue, or rape gangs more like it, but London doesn't. London, that has the highest levels of criminality in the country. Logically, it's our capital. It has the most number of people in it. A city where you can't even sneeze without having your phone nicked. Mm-hmm. I found it incredulous that this problem would be only isolated to kind of smaller towns dotted around the country. And I think the real scandal here has been Sadiq Khan's handling of it, because usually with these things, you not only want to get ahead of the story, of course, but you also want to show the public that you care and that you're on top of things. And when you do things like being asked about it 9 times and saying, oh, define grooming gangs, for example, or try to bat it away, I think that is the real scandal. And you know, in that investigation, which was brilliantly done by the Express. You had one of the survivors saying she's disgusted by his response because it's impossible that he didn't know about it. And for him to behave in the way that he has is deeply irresponsible, I think, because on the one hand, you can see that there's this anxiety for the public for the public's trust in the police or the Metropolitan Police to not collapse completely. I understand that. But on the other hand, the solution isn't then to have the Mayor of London pretending like it doesn't exist, but he basically did. He just didn't acknowledge it. He would try and find a politician's way around it by saying, oh, define it. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. That's just not good enough. It's not acceptable. And it's certainly not doing right by the victims of this horrific crime.
Susan Hall, who is a member of the London Assembly, she questions him non-stop about these things. And as you say, I've been there myself and witnessed Sadiq Khan saying, define what you mean by that. Define what you mean by that. I don't think that's true. I don't understand the question. He plays around instead of giving a direct answer. Has he failed as London Mayor?
I mean, he's failed on other counts spectacularly. I mean, I think generally he's failed. This is just another notch on his belt, really. But I think when you see the nation's reaction to the grooming gangs, rightly so, disgust, horror, it's to our everlasting shame that something like this was allowed to happen. And then you have someone like Sadiq Khan, who has no problem putting up taxes in the name of racial justice, saying that we need clean air in London because black and brown people are breathing in dirty air. So I'm going to put up a tax on what really is working people. Your plumber who takes his van from South London into work and on a daily basis, or the grandmother who lives on the edge of London who's going to church in Kennington who now has to pay a ULEZ charge, for example. When you have a character like that who seems completely disinterested in something that has really shaken the nation to the extent that it forced basically the government to hold an inquiry after Elon Musk blew up about it, I think it says a lot about him and his politics and where his priorities truly lie, especially because I can guarantee we're going to see when the full scale of this issue is revealed, the types of victims other than being young children. I think there will be some diversity there. It wouldn't just be predominantly white working class girls as we were seeing in other parts of the country. I do think there will be ethnic minorities there that turned a blind eye to this.
Well, our whistleblower speaks of a 20-year cover-up. Does that mean that Boris Johnson is implicated in this as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are so many. The system is rotten from head to toe. I mean, we're talking social workers, we're talking lawyers, we're talking politicians, we're talking police officers even who in this investigation he revealed tried to shut him up basically and silence him and said you will lose your wife and children if you speak up about this because there's a very fragile system at the core of this that you cannot disrupt. Everyone is guilty.
I should say Sadiq Khan, a spokesperson for Sadiq Khan has said these accusations are false, malicious and politically motivated. The mayor is committed to doing everything in his power to build a safer London for everyone and has always been clear that all violence against women and girls must be treated with the utmost urgency, both by our police and society as a whole. Now, the spokesperson says that, but
to say they're false.
In February of this year, the mayor rejected a proposal for a £4.49 million independent inquiry into grooming gangs in London. 4.4 million, that sounds like a lot of money, but actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not for the capital of the country. How can he say he's doing everything that he can to stop it, but he rejects this independent inquiry?
Because by his definition, everything he can to stop it is whatever is politically convenient for him. I think there is a bigger question of this statement by saying, let's say we take it at face value and we believe him. It's like, okay, the London mayor says everything is above board, there's nothing going on, this is false. What happens when it is revealed, and it will be revealed, that it's the complete opposite and he did have prior knowledge? Will he resign? Will he hold himself to the same standards that he's held other politicians to from across parties, but mainly the Conservative Party? That's the question, because the more these kinds of scandals come up, the more people lose faith in politics more broadly. The more you see the rise of fringe populist parties that are going to say, hey, what do you have to lose? The whole system is rotten to the core. You might as well throw a hand grenade at it and look at what's happening in the US. At least on some level, it's worked. So that's what's going to happen. And it's really unfortunate because at the center of this are young children that have been systemically abused for decades. And the British public has basically turned a blind eye to it. Well, public officials.
Prince Harry has said he didn't air any dirty laundry in public and that he wants to spend more time in the UK in the next year, as the focus really has to be on my dad. During a visit to Ukraine, just days after reconciling with his dad, Harry said his tell-all memoir Spare and Netflix series were not about revenge. Speaking to The Guardian in Kiev, the Duke of Sussex also appeared to make a thinly veiled swipe at his brother William, as he said, "You cannot have reconciliation before you have truth." Ooh, mysterious. What does he mean by that? You can't have reconciliation, you have truth. He's saying, again, that his family are not owning up to their part in this fallout.
So when he says his conscience is clear, I can understand that because there's a giant crevice where his conscience should be.
Oh.
And I'm not saying this, in a pejorative way. He's not operating on the same wavelength as the rest of us.
In what sense?
There's nothing in his head. I mean, like, it's just, I don't get upset at, like, cats for meowing, for example, because that's how they're constituted. Cats are designed to meow. I don't have high expectations of Prince Harry or his behavior because this is how he is. So why would he think he's done anything wrong? In his mind, he's probably, like, smoked some shrooms or, like, has this, like, California...
Smoke some shrooms?
Yeah.
Do you smoke shrooms? Is that a thing?
You grind it up. And, like,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Me neither. Anyway.
I wouldn't know.
Me neither. But he's just like, he has this kind of liberal frou-frou, yeah, man, speak your truth. It's all about the power to the people. Like, he's not operating on the same wavelength as the rest of us. So why are we so incensed that he doesn't think he's done anything wrong?
Okay, but he has at least reconciled with his dad, with Papa. So things back on track. This is a step in the right direction for the royal family.
I think, first of all, if I was Prince William, which I think he's done, I wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot barge pole. I just wouldn't. I mean, he remained stum on the details of his meeting with his father. But, this is also someone who sat in front of the BBC and said, "I don't know how long my father has left." I don't think people realize how grotesque that is.
Isn't that the same for everyone? We know how long left.
We know that the king is still undergoing cancer treatment. We don't know actually the specifics of his diagnosis. And there is a real possibility that, they may just be managing this illness until it's no longer manageable. And I think if I was his father, I would feel grossly disrespected that he's basically insinuated that I have not that much longer to live, or at least the aspects of my diagnosis that are not being made public. You don't say something like that unless you are aware of some sort of imminent risks to someone's health. I just wouldn't have anything to do with this kind of person. Not because he's Satan. I don't think he's done anything evil per se, but he's just like, what do you gain from having this headache around? There's always going to be some sort of Netflix leak or some sort of, give my children extra titles that you gave to William's kids. It's just unnecessary drama.
Well, why has Harry even returned to his father's side, do you think?
I'm trying to see, I think maybe to see if he's been written out of the will completely.
Esther.
Maybe he was left 50 quid. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't need the money, but...
Do you think Meghan Markle is okay with him coming back and trying to reconcile the family?
I don't think she cares. I think she's just doing her own thing. I mean, I watched her entire Netflix series, and boy, she has work to do on her end. I don't think she's thinking about her husband's dysfunctional family.
Wait, you think that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are living separate
lives?
No,
I think they're together. Obviously, I think they're trauma bonded. They're never getting divorced. That couple, which is good because I want their kids to remain
family
happy.
Unit.
Exactly. But I think Meghan is trying to distance herself from British drama as much as possible, and that is anything to do with his family. I think she's just letting him handle it. I still think they're married.
So isn't that a good thing then?
I think it's good for her. Yeah, good. I honestly don't think she cares, and I think actually that's a good thing because no good can come from Meghan even implying that she wants any sort of role in the firm. Remember, the whole country has sees her as, or she's been painted as some sort of nefarious gold digger. Like, she's trying to do her own thing. I don't think she has any benefit from even attempting to come back into the fold.
Well, okay, Esther, thank you. Hopefully you'll return to our fold soon again. That is all we've got time for today. Thank you for watching the Daily Expresso, and join us again tomorrow where I'll be joined by Belinda DeLucy.